Good morning, everyone. I was just listening to the conversation prior to starting the meeting, and it made me think about one of the things that good coalitions tend to bring about, and that is relationships with each other about a whole variety of things that may not have to do with the specific mission or goal or the hard work that we all try to do together. And I know that's happened for me here, made very many new contacts with people having similar values and interests. And so whatever the coalition is or becomes, it has been a catalyst for a lot of connection. And we call ourselves an open table. That's an invitation to be here, whatever our backgrounds are or our approaches. Some of us have more radical approaches. Some of us are more incrementalist. Some of us work for the government and we have our own constraints. So we're here to be respectful of each other. And one of the things I'd like to do, just to begin, especially for those who are new and to remind all of us, is we did develop a set of norms for how we want to behave when we're together. And in this Zoom space, it's a little bit different from in person. So we have a few for that as well, just to remind everyone. And Rob, if you can put that in the chat at some point, that'd be great. So for the Zoom, we're asking specifically that if you want to say something during the meeting, if you use the raise hand icon on in your program, wherever it is for you. If you're on the phone, I'm not on the phone and I haven't done that, so I forgot how that happens, but I just wave or something on the phone, whatever you can do, and hopefully Rob will see you. And then we ask that you mute yourself when you're not speaking so that any background noise in your spaces won't interrupt the meeting, and also to turn off the video if you're taking another call, because for various reasons, many of us wave our hands a lot when we talk, so that can be a little distracting. And then we have some community norms as well. I'm just going to read two of them this morning, and I'll read others at other times, but we stated we wanted to lead with a racial equity lens, and to be aware of power dynamics. So those two are a challenge to us on how does everything we do be seen through a lens of how do we either promote racial equity or how are we reinforcing the status quo? And in terms of power dynamics, who is speaking longest, who is not speaking, who do we not hear from, how do we encourage one another to speak? So with that, I'd like to invite anyone who's new to, you can either unmute yourself or raise your hand if you want to practice that, if you haven't done it much. And also to let you know that we have a chat that we save. And so if you want to put information in there about what you're looking for or resources you have to offer, these will be saved as well as the video itself, so we can use this as a resource. So new folks, let us know who you are. And if you're with a group of some kind, just to identify it, not with a long introduction, but just to let us know where you're from.
And folks can be just speak up if you want to just introduce yourself.
Well, I guess I can say something. I was part of the coalition prior to the pandemic, and we were attending the meetings. I've been on the last few weeks, and so I'm familiar. So I'm Cornell Harris. I'm with the Progress House Clubhouse. Most of you know us. We are a work release facility, but the Clubhouse is an extension of the work release facility, whereas we advocate for individuals and we help individuals who are affected with mental illness. We're located on the east side of Tacoma, where we help individuals who are affected, suffering with mental illness. Most of you have heard the Clubhouse International. So we are south of Hero House, which is located in Seattle. So again, my name is Cornell Harris, and thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining us. We're really happy to have you with us. And if you can put anything in the chat about your information for people to contact you, that would be helpful too. So welcome.
Thank you. I will do.
Well, thank you all. We'll look forward to hearing from you and from any other new people. If you want to let us know who you are, put your name in the chat and we'll welcome you that way as well. So Rob?
Thank you, Rosemary, and welcome back, Cornell. It's good to see you. This time we'll shift to our regular weekly portion of the meeting where we talk about what's happening out on the streets. And so this is a great time to talk about if you're doing outreach, things that you've seen change in the last week or you think the greater community of us in the meeting today need to know about. So I don't know, does anybody have anything to share this week? Jeffrey, I see your hand up.
I checked in with 34th and Pacific encampment this week, and after the death of one Jamie Marin in the camp, and we've said some prayers. We've had some time to kind of share our stories around our experience with Jamie, and things are pretty subdued there right now. They have been informed that there will be a sweep of the 509 encampment, approximately 30 households, and some may be going up that way. I think that's pretty much what I did see. Oh, yes, and on Yakima Avenue yesterday, I saw some surveyors working on the street, checking things out. So I'm wondering if the city is going to be using more street maintenance to clear out another camp. That's about it.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Anyone else with something to share from what they're seeing on the streets this week?
Hey, Rob. I did ask my person, Brianna, who leads our mobile clinic, to come to either talk about, is it this agenda item or is it the next agenda item that you wanted the update from that team?
So I think these two are going to kind of blend together because to queue up, I mean, we could start the conversation at any point about the situation down at the 509 camp. We talked about that you talked about that in doing outreach during last Friday's meeting. And then the coalition was made aware of the 72-hour notice that was posted last Friday. The 72-hour notice that was not a 72-hour notice. It actually was for doing the actual sweep on June 10th. So yeah, this would be a great opportunity to start that as we lead into the discussion about what we need to know when camps are going to be swept. So Brianna, if you have anything to add, and I know Maureen has background as well.
Yeah, were you guys wanting to know anything specific? I'd say there's about roughly like 30 to 40 people over there. We just wrapped up doing the mobile clinic for the last 4 weeks, not last week, but the week before. So we haven't been out there for the last 2 weeks. We've actually been under the 705. So I haven't seen it as of recently, but last time that we were out there, there was about 30 to 40 people. They're kind of spread out. It's not as big as it used to be, so it doesn't cover the whole area that it used to be. It's kind of mainly under the bridge, and then there's some people, if you follow the trail like all the way back, there's a couple people in the back.
Okay. Maureen, did you want to kind of set the stage for what we learned last week?
Sure. So at last Friday's coalition meeting, if you remember, Clarissa Monteros from the NCS told us to expect a sweep at the 509, that the land was port, of Tacoma land and Puyallup tribal land. She did not have a date but at 6 o'clock Friday night, Food Not Bombs reached out to me for help and sent a copy of the 72-hour notice, which had been posted by the port, which had a sweep date or eviction, they're calling it an eviction, of June 10th. And it was, the date was handwritten and was very clear, but our concern was that it was also very clear it was a 72-hour notice, which would have made it June 1st, i.e. over the long weekend. So I reached out to the city attorney and the mayor, the deputy mayor, and Councilmember Toms, who had been part of this ongoing working group around the proposed ordinance for the use of public space, and in hopes somebody would get back to me, and sent the same message to NCS, Linda Stewart, Allison, and Clarissa. And Linda Stewart did get back to me about 10 o'clock Friday night, confirming, number one, she read the emails after hours, but thank God. But number two, that the June 10th was in fact the correct date, and that the city's hot team was going out providing services. So following that and conversation, of course, I brought in our lawyers, the National Homelessness Law Center, Northwest Justice and Tacoma Pro Bono, as well as steering committee and Safe Sites committee people. And so we've been working on that all week. And where we are right now is that the city attorney referred all of my questions about the notice. Since it was unclear, it does not cite public safety, which is the only way that you can clear an encampment under the CDC guidance. It cites obstruction of a public servant, which to my mind clearly was not an emergency situation, since they had time to plan this and then schedule it 2 weeks out. Uses the city's existing trespass law. And then the city attorney, just I sent, everybody has that on the listserv, has the actual notice. So it's not clear, if I went out there, would I be considered loitering? Would I be subject to arrest? All that sort of thing. And so the city attorney referred me to the deputy city attorney, who advises NCS, who then had sent me to the Port of Tacoma contact. It's the director of communications, and she and I are in conversation. She said she'll get back to me today with answers to at least some of the questions. And then on the process part, I've been in conversations with Allison Griffith about the process part. Like, does the hot team do a by name list? Because if we're going to do Built for Zero, which we've agreed on, we got to have that by name list as the anchor. And then, what's being offered. And I think the most important piece of information back from Allison yesterday was that, there's a lot of language that we hear around people refusing services, refusing shelter. The rest of that, here's the rest of that sentence, all right? The people that the hot team spoke with at the 509 refused whatever shelter was offered. And I don't know what was offered, because there aren't that many beds out there available. For these reasons, they wanted more space for their belongings. They wanted a place for their vehicles. They were interested, those with vehicles were interested in safe parking, and Allison said they were referred to Colin. So they needed more space for their belongings than current shelters provide. They did not want to adhere to rules such as curfews. They felt that shelters that were offered did not offer them privacy. They wanted a specific type of shelter, like a micro shelter, which I think is a tiny house, and that they had concerns that congregate shelters triggered past trauma. So I think moving down the agenda, that's a helpful list to keep in mind, that yes, people may refuse the shelter that's offered because it's not the appropriate shelter for the individual. And so that's part of what we want to get out. But part of what we discussed then at the steering committee was, it just seems like this is an opportune sweep to really come to grips with what do we need from the coalition side, given all of the different players, some of the official providers who have official outreach responsibilities, volunteer self-help groups, volunteers within the coalition. What is it we need to know when there's notice of a sweep, and how should we act? Keeping in mind that what we're concerned about is the safety of the people who are in that encampment. So that's the lead in. And we just thought not breakout rooms where we'd sort of be sharing bits and pieces of information, but rather an open discussion and then use the chat. What do we need to know? When do we need to know it? So that we can help the people who are the subjects of the sweep.
Thank you, Maureen.
Get that right. Somebody else help me fill it out.
No, I think that's great. And that's a great lead in. Brianna, I saw that you had your hand up.
Yeah, so on the list, I found it interesting that they didn't mention pets, because there was quite a few pets under the 509 bridge, and I know that a lot of shelters aren't very accommodating to that. So both pets and couples, or like people who want to be able to stay together but they can't at the shelters, the list didn't have either of those things on that, and I've run into that quite a few times, that people have been frustrated that they can't get shelter anywhere with those accommodations.
Thank you. And Haley, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, first I want to say that for everyone who doesn't know, I've left the mission in my official capacity, but I'm still going out with them now just as a volunteer weekly. So I just want to make sure that's kind of out there, that I'm not at the mission in any type of official capacity anymore. But I was at the 509 last Saturday, and they did have quite a few people. There was a community member who had brought in a huge trailer and was helping some of the people on the end closest to the railroad tracks on our towards the businesses. Most of that end, they were getting help moving out. As far as the other end, we weren't seeing that happen as much. So I haven't been there since last Saturday, but that was happening. There were some people that had, they were going to go, I can't remember exactly where they were going to go, but they did have a place to go. And that was one of the bigger spots. And then, yeah, that was really all I have to update. Not a lot, but I wanted to say that I was there Saturday. I'm sure that our team has been there since. They're going to Fife at least once a week right now. Our team, I'm not really on the team anymore, but yeah.
Thank you, Haley. Jenny, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, another one that I didn't hear on the list either, but that we hear a lot is marijuana use. People won't go into shelter because of the drug testing policies, but specifically marijuana. And I know some of the shelters say it's okay on intake, but then they can't use it after that. But we have a lot of feedback about marijuana use. They won't go into shelters because they can't use marijuana. So that's another thing that we hear a lot of is marijuana use.
Thanks, Jenny. Mm-hmm. James?
Yeah, this is my favorite narrative to combat, and I am curious, I just want to ensure, I know we were talking about the report from a different interview a few weeks ago, and is this information being collected right now? If so, by whom, and what's the question they're asking? Because again, what you just said there, the first thing that was said in Maureen's statement is that the report is a lot of people are refusing, but what then subsequently, there was a whole list of things that people were willing to accept. So it wasn't a refusal. I just wonder if it's would you go to TRM? No, that person refused. Or did the person say, okay, we'll connect you with Colin, and Colin says, oh yeah, we don't have any openings. Is that a refusal, or is that actually an acceptance? But then the openings didn't match. And I think one of the things we might want to strategize specifically as we're starting to build out our next level of the ad hoc committee for the sheltering part is, as we are addressing encampment needs, I think we should standardize a survey about these questions and reframe it as, here's a list of things that people said they wanted to accept, or the option that was appropriate for them. And not that they refused, because I'm confident every single one of them could have told you what sort of shelter would have worked for them. They just refused the congregate shelter at the rescue mission, sleeping for 8 hours, moving all the way to the downtown campus, picking up their belongings, leaving during the day, and sleeping in a room with 100 other men or whatever. Like, I think that's reasonable to say my mental health or whatever is not a good fit for that. But I guess the question would be for the coalition, like, should we build out the more solution-focused survey, ask the right questions and collect the right information and report back that we interviewed 30 people. 30 people said they would receive or accept these.
Thank you, James. And that's really the point of this conversation, I think, is to try to build out what that looks like. Maureen.
I just want to pick up the point about the survey. So we do have a couple of drafts in process. Joanne Iverson and Megan Capes have been working on one. And I think, James, I know we got everything in the recording, but if there are people who want to work on that survey draft, if you'd put your names in the chat, and we'll make sure you get looped in. Now, I don't know the questions back to what Allison sent me from the hot team response. I don't know the questions they asked, but again, I think those are the kinds of things we want to capture. Exactly what are the questions that are being asked? And, pets and couples, pot use. I don't know if those were responses or not. This is just, she said, the message literally says responses included. So doesn't indicate these were the only responses. So anyway, thanks.
Colin, I see your hand up as well.
Yeah, so I was just, building off of what James said. I think that James, I agree that, and I guess what Maureen said also, but I think asking, some more questions. And I would say such a big piece of this to me comes down to the education. And once again, it's the education of the individuals at these camps and them truly understanding what their rights are and what they can do. Because truly all this comes down to Boise and how is the city aligning with the Boise case, right? So if you look at the Boise case, having definitions also from the city side, and Allison called me the other day about, I'm heading down to 509 with the hot team today to people that are in their vehicles to see if we can place them. But the key word in Boise is adequate. So having a legal understanding and a city understanding and a coalition understanding of what adequate shelter is super important on this. And them understanding the adequate, some of the things that were said, up, like if the adequates, they're these concrete numbers. So we need to figure out, like Brianna said, if someone has a pet and they're not being allowed to a shelter, then that's not a shelter. That's not a referral for them, right? That's a concrete thing, right? They have this, I have this. If someone's banned from TRM, then you can't refer them there. That doesn't count, right? The thing is, there is a line where it goes too far. And we dealt with this in Olympia. If you're being offered shelter at this site and that site works for you, but you simply don't want to go there because you want a tiny house, the box is checked from the city standpoint legally is what you're going to hear, because that's adequate, right? It doesn't, everybody's going to want the, at where do you draw the line, I guess, because what if the person says, I want a 1-bedroom apartment, I want a house, right? Like, and I'm not even trying to make shit of this at all. I'm just being real. There has to be, adequate is a super important word that needs to be figured out with the city and with the legal term teams, because that's really what is adequate shelter.
Thank you, Colin. Well, and isn't Maureen and everybody here, one of the issues in this and other situations with sweeps is how providers even find out about it. So in this case, it was it the Food Not Bombs people who let us know?
Yeah, they reached out to me, which, so sometimes if it's a city sweep, over the last few months, Allison has called me and emailed me to give me notice. But the Food Not Bombs was a port sweep, even though the city obviously knew about it. And I mean, I wouldn't have known anything if Food Not Bombs hadn't reached out and sent a copy of that, of the notice. So,
Well, and maybe what we can do is we can come up with a template to do outreach to everybody at the full county level, so that there's a list of folks who get notified if a encampment cleanup is going to happen somewhere and people are going to be displaced. And then we all are working from the same page of what information we need to be able to actually help people before they're re-traumatized even further.
I think Clarissa said there was going to be some sort of a distribution list for the city sweeps.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've got what, 9 cities and small towns plus unincorporated Pierce County. I mean, we're focused right now on the port, but we've got conflicting and even unknown policies and procedures out there.
Tegan, I see you're on the call. I'm not sure if you're able to respond, but can you kind of offer some thoughts about what the standard procedure is right now at the city, and so that we can use that as a starting point to try to create a template that we would be helpful with others?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And I want to highlight that I know Maureen just shared that I know when we're cleaning encampments that we've been sharing that. And I know, I don't know where that got lost with the port, so I can't speak to that. But we do have a standard operating procedure for encampment cleanups. We are revising it and trying to make it very much more holistic. So I can get a copy of that document, because I think that would probably be more helpful for you than me just citing what I remember from it, since I'm not as engrossed in that part of our work. And so I don't want to misrepresent what's happening with the city. So let me get that for the coalition and see if I can get it to you guys. Would that be helpful?
Okay. Yeah, that would, because if we want to build something that's going to fit, especially as there's this effort going on across the whole county, it seems like we should be able to land on something that is standardized enough to be helpful across the whole county.
Yeah, and it would make sense to have it consistent across the county, since all that work is starting to coalesce and come together in a really great way. So hopefully it can be standardized to be supportive and appropriate. So let me get you what we have. And I can't speak to what's being underway in the county. So I know you said Clarissa mentioned some of that, so that might be going on in the steering committee. I haven't been briefed on that, so I can't speak to that. But I'll work on that part for you. I know it's maybe not necessary for this conversation. You probably want a little more than that, but is that a good IOU?
Yeah, it's a helpful thing.
Okay. Great.
So other thoughts and questions on this? I have a feeling we're not going to get this resolved today, but I'm hoping we can try to move in a positive direction, so that the folks under the 509 bridge actually get served, but also that in the future we have a system set up. I see Garrett's hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I've created a new listserv for the coalition called Encampment Alerts, and I'm not exactly sure how we'll end up using that. But if you're interested, my goal would be, if a government's going to do a sweep, they could email to that, so that everyone that cares about trying to get resources to those folks will be able to. And so that's available now. And again, I'm not sure how we're going to end up using it, but if we decide to use something else, at least we'll have your name and your interests there. So I'll put the link in, but it's just on the listserv page on the coalition website.
Thank you, Garrett. And I see Colin's hand up, and then Al.
Yeah, I'm curious if there's any representation from the county also too, because it seems like there's just a lot of silence from the county when it comes to this encampment cleanup stuff. And there's rumblings. I don't know who has all heard about it. I'm not going to say very much, but I've heard of a large group of individuals in East Pierce County that are getting ready to be displaced, talking around like 200 individuals. And the county's aware of this. And so I'm kind of wondering if the county's going to share any of this information with us and let us know what their procedure is. I don't know if anybody else has heard about that. I don't want to say much more than that, but I think it's important to know what the county's role in this stuff is too, because we're hearing, I'm not hearing anything. Maybe Maureen, you are, or Garrett.
Or Paula.
Colin, did you say 200?
Yes, 200.
No, I haven't heard anything about that.
Families, individuals, a bunch of people that are living in an area together, and something's supposedly going to happen to that area.
I saw Jeff Rogers was on the call. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm here. Did you say it's supposed to happen today, Colin?
No.
Oh.
I've heard that it's happening though, and the people at the area know that there's something coming, and I'm guessing the county's involved. I'm guessing this is code related, but
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything. Typically when there's issues with code violations, myself and my manager, John Barbie, are informed of things that are happening with our public works, which is the department that addresses these issues. I haven't seen anything. I'm not aware of anything, but I will inquire with the contacts we have at Public Works to see if there's something going on. My understanding is that they're not doing sweeps of encampments, was my understanding.
yeah, this is not an encampment. This is a RV type area in East Pierce County.
I've
Pretty
heard
sure
of
it's on
that.
the radar. Well, it might be something to look into because there's outreach workers going there and they're being told that this area is being cleared and there's around 200.
Can you give me a little more detail? Like when you say East Pierce County, do you
Ording
need exact
area.
location?
Ording
Ording.
area.
Okay,
So
perfect. Thanks.
one of the things I think that, God, I hope you're wrong. One of the things.
Me too, but I don't think I am.
No. So here are a few other things that I know about the county. All right. One, the county, unincorporated Pierce County, does have an administrative procedure about clearing. And Pierce County Human Services gave me a copy of that. It's not a council approved document. It's an administrative document. That's one thing. And so I can put that out on the listserv if you like, or people can just come to me if you want it. That's one thing. The other thing is the issue of the land. Who actually owns the land is like the first question after hearing something, because if that land, if it's state land, it's one thing. If it's federal land, it's another. If it is city of Ording, it's another. If it's unincorporated Pierce County. And so that's just another piece that has to be sorted out to find out, sort of what's next. But we are still under CDC guidance, no sweep guidance for encampments.
Right. So in theory, let's just say that if a property owner had a property and he had rentals on that property and those rentals were not up to code, and let's say that the county code enforcement came along and said, hey, if you don't fix this, we're going to shut this down. And that's a conversation in theory has been going on for quite a while. Then you get to a point where they say, and the owner says, you know what, I can't pay to fix this. So go and shut it down. And that's where this property is at, right? And so there's movement on it. And there'll be plenty more to come down about this, but I just think it's something where, once again, when we can start to be a little bit reactive and not be proactive, or proactive and not be reactive on everything. And I know that's so much of the work that you're doing and this group is doing in this coalition. We need to take those opportunities. And I think having whatever the document the county has, that's awesome. But it seems like with this conversation going on with Tegan talking about that, they're revising the standard operating procedure for cleanups. What a great opportunity for the county to get their heads in that same meeting and maybe have a SOP that's the same across the board. So one, it's not confusing by jurisdiction or location for the individuals in the camps. And it's not confusing for the outreach workers also, because everybody knows we follow this basic framework. So when I talk about the county, that's what I'm saying. So it's whether or not the county knows about this, it would be great if they could think about doing, be involved in that conversation.
Yeah, well, Colin, I'm surprised we don't know, because even if it is property that you've described, they share that with us and encourage us to have outreach workers go out to those locations. And we have not heard anything about any location in the area you're talking about requesting that we send outreach workers out to that type of a location to offer services. So I'll do a little bit of research and let you guys know what I find out.
And you can, Jeff, you can follow up with me too, and follow up with me. I don't want to blow, I shouldn't even have said what I said because someone kind of told me it in confidence, but to me, it's extremely concerning to hear about this. And I hope I'm wrong too, and I hope it's misinformation, but the details I got was anything but.
Can you put your email for me in the chat box, please, so I have it? Thanks.
And then if you would keep me in that loop, then I'll, oh God, I guess I'll just pick the sucker up.
If there's an opportunity for some of us who have time or are going to create the time to advocate on this, then definitely loop us in. So Al, you had your hand up a little bit ago as well.
Yeah. If it would be useful, I would be willing to submit public record requests to all of the governmental jurisdictions asking for their policies and procedures so that we could compare them and then advocate for uniformity. But I would need to know which jurisdictions you want to hear from. Not right now, but I'll talk with Maureen about it.
Okay, great. Maureen, your hand's up again too.
So my thinking on this, even before today's meeting, was that we would try and get this issue on both the shelter work group and on the steering committee agendas. And which is not to say we shouldn't do our own PDRs, but having watched the mayors in the SHAPE process, the South Sound Housing Affordability Program partnership, I think we want to think through them. It's a strategic decision.
Well, let me know if you want me to do that.
Yeah, no, good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for the attention to this issue this morning. It's obviously a timely and critical one. So if you have additional thoughts about the information that everybody needs, please drop it in the chat. I am going to shift to our next agenda item. So again, appreciate everybody's energy on this. And our next item was going to be having Sarah Bellamy from Comp Life to talk about the foundational community support services offered by CLR. So it's all yours, Sarah.
All right, good morning. Hello, hello. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the FCS program we have running out of Comprehensive Life Resources. So most of you are familiar with our homeless outreach team, and we are one leg of that team, but we provide a Medicaid benefit program called FCS, or Foundational Community Support. So we wanted to bring this to the team here just to let you know kind of what we do and how to get people enrolled into our program. And also, as a side little bonus, we are currently recruiting for a housing specialist. So as I'm kind of describing our program, if you or anybody you know in your programs or circles might be a good candidate for joining our team, that would be awesome. So, so FCS is as I mentioned, a Medicaid benefit program. So all of our folks that we serve have to be Medicaid eligible, as well as meet a couple other criteria, including a health need and a risk factor. And after this meeting, I will send out our brochures and some of the more our referral forms so that you guys can kind of dissect that a little bit more detail. And just always know you can reach out to our team if you have any questions about folks that might be eligible for our services or whatnot. And so we have two programs. We have our supportive housing program, and then we also have supported employment. So what our program is as it kind of mentions, it's a support program. So unfortunately, we don't have any funding for housing. We don't actually have housing, but we have an amazing team of supportive, compassionate folks that align with folks where they're at and help them navigate whatever that path is to sustainable, safe housing, whatever it looks like for them. So we serve folks who are currently experiencing homeless. We serve folks who are currently housed, but need some extra support in sustaining that housing, whether it be connecting with the community or whatever it might be. So just briefly, what the health needs are to get into our program. So for housing specifically, they have to have a mental health criteria or diagnosis, or substance use diagnosis. They have to have a care, or they have to have a care assessment where they need help meeting ADLs, or they have to be homeless with a disability as indicated on our on the coordinated entry. And so those are the health needs. And then risk factors could be chronic homelessness. It could be, let's see, what else are there? Frequent or lengthy institutional contacts. So folks that are maybe in and out of the hospital, folks that maybe have caregivers that they're turning over. So there's all kinds of criteria to get folks through our program, but these premises who we're looking to serve as those folks who are needing extra support navigating the housing world, or whatever it is, or on the flip side, the employment world. So folks who are looking to join the workforce, switch jobs, start to entertain the idea of working. So we can, on our employment side, we can serve anybody who's interested in working. So a couple other things about our program: we're 100% voluntary, which means folks have to want to work with us. So we aren't a court ordered program or anything like that. We serve folks that are ready to have a little bit of wraparound support to help them navigate whatever path they're on. Let's see. Does anybody have any questions? That's kind of us in a nutshell. Very brief kind of overlay, but does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Janet?
Can you do a referral to Park Place?
So we can do a referral to Park Place. So, you know, us specifically, we can, anyone on our team, Homeless Outreach or our team can. That is something that if you find someone who's experiencing homelessness that needs that extra support, how to get into Park Place, we can definitely do that. Now, whether or not they're a good candidate for Park Place is really up to Park Place's criteria and all of that. But we can, that's definitely something we can help navigate. We serve a lot of folks who are currently living at Park Place as well. Yeah.
Second question, do you keep data on the number of folks you interview and the number of referrals made, regardless of the success of the referral made? Do you keep data on the number of referrals that you actually attempt to make?
Most likely that is something our data administrator could pull, I would guess, just based on, we don't keep that necessarily handy, but I think we could probably pull that data for sure.
Okay, who can I contact? There is a side movement to increase medical respite beds for those who live homeless, both those who are discharged from hospitals and those who are living in, living homeless, who need more attention because of health. We need data in order to make more options available through a variety of programs. So who at CLR could I contact for your program data?
So her name is Mary Payton. I'll put her email address in the chat. And definitely she's open to just reach out to her, send her an email of kind of what you're looking for. And she's the master and wizard of all things data on our team. So if it can be done, she will do it for you. So I will get you her information. And she is also the person that handles all of our referrals. So likely you'll be chatting with her if you have somebody that might be interested in our program. Folks can self-refer as well if somebody's out there and gets word of our program. I'll email the coalition some of our brochure material that we have, and this can be handed out to folks. If you or your agency want some of these copies of these brochures, I can definitely drop them off to you so they can be available for folks. The referrals don't have to come from you. If people get their hands on these, they have our information, email, phone number, and stuff like that. So I'll make sure I get that out to y'all.
Thank you, Sarah. I did see a question in the chat from Greg Walker about if there's age constraints for clients. So can you address that?
Sure, for sure. Our employment program, we are able to serve 16 and up. And so it can be, anybody within that age range. Our housing program has to be 18 and up. They have to be officially able to sign a lease and stuff like that. So 18 and up. We do have FCS running out of our young adult shelter, and we'll continue to have a program through our new hyper, young adult engagement program. And so we have folks that serve specifically work with some of the young adults and stuff, but our team will serve anybody all the way up.
Great. All right, any other final questions for Sarah?
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
Just one follow-up on that. For the supportive housing side, I understand 18 so they can sign a lease. Can they start working with the program prior to turning 18? We run into an issue with youths that are in our shelter in particular who are underage. We can't get them housed until they're 18. A lot of programs won't let them work with them until they're 18, but on their 18th birthday, they are no longer eligible to stay in our shelter. So it really helps if there's an overlap time where, a couple of months before they turn 18, we can start engaging them in programming that helps them so that by the time they turn 18, they have a housing option available. Is that something we can do?
I don't believe, because it is a Medicaid program and they have those set restrictions, we can't technically enroll somebody into the program until 18. However, I think there will be some collaboration efforts that we can do with some of our new programming that we have starting up with our young adult program, where we'll have some what we're going to call youth engagement specialists who are able to maybe do some of that work in between, and then also work in conjunction with our FCS staff that we'll have on site there to kind of do that warm handoff, kind of transition work where it's and be able to stay on board both programs. So still kind of in the makings of some of these new things, but while we officially can't do it, I really, really foresee us being able to coordinate some efforts to make sure that gap is not missed there.
Thank you, Sarah. And thanks for coming today and for the information. We'll look forward to the flyers.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So next on our agenda, we have time set aside for Maureen to do some advocacy updates.
All right, folks. Well, good morning. I would say don't worry about what's happening in DC at the moment. Our national partners will hold on to housing money as much as they can, as long as they can, no matter what the Democrats and Republicans and the Biden administration and Congress are publicly or privately doing. State, we're going to talk a little bit later about the coalition signing off on a letter about the rapid capital housing acquisition. This is $123 million. 90 million of that is state money. 93 million is state of Washington bond money, which means it's fairly flexible. This is the money that can be used to purchase hotels. The initial program description from the Department of Commerce required a match on the first round of money. Because our acquisition costs are so low in Pierce County, right now they're under $100,000 a unit for a hotel purchase. We are requesting Commerce waive that match requirement. And we're also requesting that they bump it up to $150,000 per unit in case the market starts to move. This NOFA comes out July 8th. It will have a less than 1 month turnaround. So if your organization is interested in purchasing a hotel, you've got to have site control. If you're not talking to Pierce County Human Services, if you're not talking to the State Department of Commerce, please talk to me and I'll make the connections for you so you get ready. We're also in the situation in part because of the decisions that the county made that they did not fund homelessness and housing in the way that the county executive had proposed, that we don't have the match coming through Pierce County in order to meet that August 5th deadline. nor has the county adopted the 1/10 of 1% affordable housing tax. So it's the combination of lower costs, but also not having the match. So then the second thing is that I discovered on a call this week that there's another pot of money. There's like money emerging everywhere. So the pot of money that I found this week is $20 million of state money for leasing hotels. And Commerce does not have the program description yet. Pierce County Human Services is working with the Department of Commerce on this, has let them know that they're interested. So if you are interested in leasing a hotel, let Pierce County Human Services know. Shoot Jeff Rogers an email and tell him you want to be on the interest list. You're not making any organizational commitments. And I have a hunch that some of you might be more interested in leasing than in purchasing. It's a little less risk. If you are interested in a floor of a hotel for your targeted clients, let Jeff and the Pierce County Human Services folks know that as well. So the better prepared we are, the more likely we'll be able to take advantage of these opportunities. And those are two that are coming fast. The Traditional Housing Trust Fund will come out, I think, in June. The NOFA on that's highly competitive. The folks who are going to line up for that source already know who they are and what they're going to be asking for. But these other two sources are brand new. One of the things we had as a request in our summit was some sort of mental health support for providers because of the pandemic. And one of the things funded in the state budget is actually a study, a 2-year study and program, and I'm not sure of all the details. Excuse me. To respond, I hate this, to respond to traumatized frontline providers, shelter workers and frontline providers. So we'll keep an eye on that. Problem is I don't talk to enough people all day long. Now, with the county, so as far as I know, the county's getting the rental money out, and I'm sure Jeff will fill us in. But one of the things that I have asked for in the past, and I'm hoping that the county's in a position to be able to respond now, is that at least some of the rental assistance money the county is receiving allows for people who are experiencing homelessness, if they have a signed lease, to have their rent forward paid. That would help us move people out of tiny houses, out of long-term people out of shelters, people, some people in encampments, people who are on caseloads, you know, with all the different outreach workers. So we're waiting to hear back on that. And if you have not, if you are an outreach worker, if you're a case manager, if you're a navigator, whatever it is you are, that you have clients who are not housed, please make sure that they have seen their whatever it is a landlord's going to look at, whatever that background check looks like for most landlords, to make sure they don't have hidden eviction notices. If they've got legal financial obligations, that those are taken care of, hook them up with Tacoma Pro Bono. And in some cases, it'll be Northwest Justice, but get these folks ready and have them do a free credit score so that if the landlord's asking that they know those things. We don't want anybody we don't want anybody that we think can move into housing and then to find out at the last minute they can't pass the background check. So that part. We've talked about the city and the port. The port contact I was given reached out twice yesterday to me and said I would have something later today. So hopefully we did receive a sort of a I don't know, congratulations and a thank you from a staffer at the Seattle or King County Coalition on Homelessness for our work, our creative and innovative work on the economic impact payments, on getting the stimulus checks out and getting Seattle Credit Union to set up those accounts online. The Pierce County Comprehensive Plan, which now is the follow-up from the ad hoc committee, is moving forward. The steering committee meets for the first time next Friday afternoon, the 11th. And Mike was on the call, Mike Boyster. I don't know if there's a date for the shelter work group yet. The website will be moved from county council control and rules to Pierce County Human Services. And so that will happen. And all of these meetings will be public in the same way that the ad hoc committee meetings will be public. We'll have a link that will go out to the listserv, and people can join in the meetings that way. I don't know if you can use the chat or not if Pierce County Human Services is running it. Sometimes on the council run meetings, you can't use the chat. So, but we'll find out. If you have things that you want Mike Boyster to bring up in the shelter group, you want me to bring up on the steering committee, we're your two representatives from the coalition, but we have other people in the coalition on those two groups. So we've got James Pogue, we've got Richard Berghammer, we've got Courtney Chandler, we've got other people whose names are escaping me at the moment. And so please reach out. And if use the chat right now, if there are things that you think you need. And now I'm going to ask Mike, because there he is. Mike, what do you want to add?
Yeah, there is a meeting set up. We just got it this week for Thursday. And so I sent out an email back to, I can't remember her name, asking if there's an agenda yet. And so I'm just waiting for her to get back to me.
Excellent. Thank you. So, and then Garrett is an alternate for Mike, and the three of us will stay in contact. So we've got singing the same song here. But please put in the chat anything that you think should be brought up. Last thing that I have right now is that our housing committee, our coalition housing committee, will meet. We're meeting the 2nd and 4th Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'll send out the notice to the entire listserv so you can register, but even if you can't come to the meetings and you have an interest in the housing end, then sign up for the housing listserv, okay? Back to the state for just one moment is that it is like a fire hose of money and programs and studies and working groups coming. So it's like every week there's something more. They are, I think, incredibly responsive, and I would think exhausted. So thank you.
Real quick, I put the wrong date there, but it's 2 to 4 next Thursday is our shelter committee meeting. I was looking at my calendar for the wrong day. I put the wrong time there, but I'll update 2 to 4 next Thursday afternoon.
Thanks, James. So the next item on our agenda is a short update from Teresa and Lori about homelessness messaging resources that are being created.
Lori, are you there?
There I am. Okay. Yes, I am here. And yeah, we just wanted to share our messaging committee has met a couple of times. Right now it consists of Teresa and me and Rob and Al. And we've, one of the things I decided to do to kind of get us off on the idea of just some visual messaging that people maybe would get their attention. Maybe they can relate to it because it's simple. Maybe they can even agree with it and think, gee, maybe I can help, something like that, rather than, you know, try to shake up stereotypes and that kind of thing. So, so I created some stuff because a lot of people don't know, but I'm a professional artist. I have my own business and do that in addition to what I do here at Tacoma Pro Bono. And so I decided to just, okay, I'll start working on this. So I made, I think, 4 or 5 different images. The messages I've been working with are, because we have several, and it helps me anyway to just like put it in a visual form, and then that makes the message clearer for me, and hopefully that works for other people. But one of the things we're talking about is safe shelter, like people need a safe place to sleep. The other one we're talking about is end street homelessness by November 1st, 2021. Two kind of separate things, but they go together. The other one is let's not sweep camps before we have enough shelter for everyone. So that's what I've done. And if you let me share my screen, I can show them to you really fast. They're gonna go in the toolkit. The idea is they can be used, they're mobile and changeable. They can be used for anything. And if you look at them and say, hey, I'd like to, stick that in my window or put it on a poster or whatever, just ask me. I can do that.
So you should have the ability to share your screen now, Lori.
All right. There we go. Okay. And I just have to get the right window. Here we go. There we go. Okay, are you seeing?
Yes.
Okay. So here's our end street homelessness by 11/1/21. Little shopping cart. Next couple are the idea everyone deserves a safe place to sleep. Or everyone needs a safe place to sleep, kind of a different take on those two different messages. And this is the one, shelter first, can't pay rent, don't take my tent. And then we kind of made that into safe shelter first, rather than just shelter first, but we got both versions. So that's kind of where I am right now. And we have other stuff going on as well, but any questions on these? And we also invite other people to create stuff. I mean, these are my attempts at images that we hope will carry some weight with people and cause them to think.
You're getting a lot of greats and awesomes in the chat.
Great. Well, they're yours to use, or modify. I mean, these are PDFs right now. They can be anything. We'll put them in the toolkit, probably in a couple different forms.
So who typed up the agreement?
Great. And does anybody have any questions or further feedback they'd like to share? I'm seeing all positive things.
So if anyone else has some creative juice that we don't know about, I had no idea that Lori was so talented when we started working on this, and I'm delighted with the images she came up with. So if somebody else has ideas, send them our way, because the toolkit can fit whatever we want to fit in it. Also, if you know of other resources, links to resources that might be useful for people as they try to create some materials for this campaign, send those my way too. We have a little Excel document that we just got started, so you can send them to me and I will include them in the Excel sheet so that we all have access to as much great stuff as we can going forward to get this thing done. Anyway, thank you. Lori, especially thank you, and thank you everybody.
Monique, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Lori, I am a stick figure artist and not a good one. So I would like to ask if you could do one that has something to do with veterans.
I would love to do that, Monique.
Thank you very much. I'd appreciate
that. Yeah, email me some thoughts and I'm working on it already.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So anybody else who has thoughts on this, please drop them into the chat. And really thank you, Lori, for putting your efforts into this, and Teresa for getting us to think about messaging. This is awesome.
I'm seeing some requests to send files. I'm happy to just send out the JPEGs and PDFs of these to everybody.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay, so let's move on to our government updates. I noticed, as we all did, that Tegan's on today's call. Tegan, do you have updates from the city of Tacoma?
I'm almost there. Still working from one screen. Thanks everyone. It's good to see everybody. Let me pull up my updates. So a couple of things, and it's going to take me a while to put these things in the chat afterwards. So give me a little bit of time. So there's going to be a community meeting for the 69th and Proctor site. That's going to be on June 23rd. I will put the Zoom link into the chat. If you want me to send it on the listserv, I can do that as well.
Please do.
Okay, will do. The updates, I'll put another link again for the city authorized emergency shelter sites. So we have our census and our outcomes for our temporary and emergency shelters. I'll also put in the link to the rental assistance, which I'm sure the county will also speak to. I know Maureen gave this update earlier about the Pierce County Comprehensive Plan to End Homelessness Steering Committee. So I wanted to share that Allison Griffith will represent the city of Tacoma on that plan, and Clarissa Monteros will be sitting on the shelter plan work group. Again, I know we've said this before, so the first reading of the no camping ordinance was moved to June 15th. I know we've shared that link to Legistar. I'll share it again. As far as we know, that's still occurring. And the next homeless update, we just got it moved. It's not next. It was supposed to be on June 15th. It's the week after. I don't have my calendar in front of me. Can anyone beat me to it of the date? 15. No. 22nd. So the 22nd is the next time there will be a homeless update from the city on that day. And that is all I have for today. But if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tegan. And I'm not seeing any raised hands yet. So with that being said, again, feel free to drop questions in the chat, and I know Tegan's going to be here, so she'll be able to see those. Next would be updates from Pierce County. Jeff, did you have updates for us?
Yeah, I could give you a couple. As Maureen mentioned, there is $20 million that's going to be made available statewide. Our understanding of those funds is those funds can be used for emergency hotel motel vouchers, as well as for a rapid rehousing component and the services that would be linked with those dollars for shelter in the form of hotel motels and rapid rehousing. So it's a little bit broader than just for hotel motels. It does include rapid. We know that HUD recently released a notice of funding opportunity for the Youth Homeless Demonstration Program. That is a program that HUD has been putting out annually for about the last 4 years or so, awarding different communities across the country money to address youth homelessness. And when we use the term youth, we're talking about all youth 12 to 24 is the range of youth in that bucket of youth. Applications are due to HUD July 27th. Valerie's working with the grant writer who's doing our department to work on that. We're reaching out to a variety of people. HUD has told us that there is $160 million available. 50 communities across the state will be awarded. Practically every community that's covered in the state of Washington, except for Spokane and Pierce County, have received an allocation of these funds in the past. So hopefully it's our turn. Typically they would put out 80 million each year for 25 communities, but they did not put a notice out last year due to the pandemic. So they're combining the FY19, fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20 funding to make it 160 million that'll be put out this year. They anticipate notifying the communities that are awarded the money by August, so that planning around the monies can start like September. So it's a quick turnaround, quick decision on their part, and planning, hopefully, if we get the funding, would start like September. We also have another funding opportunity we released. It's titled Voices That Matter. It is where we are going to start paying stipends to homeless or formerly homeless persons to participate in all the planning efforts that we do here at Pierce County. So they will be compensated for their time. That would be any prep time, prepare for meetings, all meeting time that they're in meetings, as well as any follow-up time. We're looking for an organization or organizations to assist persons in being prepared for meetings and after those meetings with any follow-up to ensure that we have homeless, formerly homeless persons with lived expertise participating in all of our planning processes. That application is due next Friday. We're moving quickly on that so that we can identify the provider or providers to do this work so that we can start paying with work we're doing around the homeless planning that we're doing between now and the end of the year. Yes, it's a short turnaround, but the application only has like 5 questions and a very simple budget. So it isn't like we're asking for a ton in the applications like we usually do with the application process. So it is pretty doable. As was mentioned earlier, the shelter committee for the homeless planning we're doing is meeting next Thursday, and the steering committee is meeting on Friday for their very first meetings. We haven't identified a facilitator yet. We're still in the process of doing that. We're also trying to identify a extra hire position within our division to be a project manager for this project and take the lead on this work. That person has not been identified, and we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with data analysis work. So hopefully soon we'll have some people in positions to support this work. Our team is over capacity in the work that we're doing, responding to COVID. So we're looking to bring in some different temporary staff to help support this work. That's our update for today.
Jeff, one quick question. Is there going to be a new website for the ongoing work around creating the comprehensive plan and the short-term plan to end homelessness?
That's a good question. I am not aware, but I can find out and let you know.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I know when the ad hoc committee had its website, it was a good one-stop place to be able to go in and participate in the meetings as an observer, just tracking the process. Maureen, I see your hand up.
Yeah, it's in your inbox, Jeff. Heather Moss did say that the website is moving. There will be a website. It's moving from the control of Pierce County Council, which is where that one was, to the control of Pierce County Human Services.
Okay, so there's your answer.
Yeah.
Maureen's quicker to read her email, I guess, than I am.
Breaking news.
Takes a village.
All right, thanks everybody, and thank you, Jeff, for the updates. Do we have anybody on the call from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department? Hi, Rihanna.
Hi, everybody. I'm here this week. Sorry, I was absent. I was at vaccine clinics. So I have a couple of updates. I just want to make sure that everybody knows where to find the information. And probably the most important information for this group is the vaccine call center number and our free transportation information. So I'll post that information in the chat afterwards, but if people—
Rihanna, just so you know, your audio got kind of faint there for a moment.
Can everybody hear me?
It's a little faint, but I can hear you.
Okay. So if people call our call center number, the call center can help people find different types of COVID vaccine. If they got their first dose somewhere else and need the same kind, they can call the call center number and they'll be directed to find the correct vaccine for their second dose if that's needed. Most of our clinics now are first and second doses, not just first. They can help find appointments at healthcare facilities and pharmacies, walk-up events, help with transportation. There is mobility assistance and language support. We also have a homebound vaccine if anybody has a need for that. So I'll post that information in the chat. Pierce Transit is still doing free rides. The rides are round trip. A person can just get on the bus and say, I'm going to the Lakewood Vaccine Clinic at the town center, and the bus will take them there, and they can get on the bus and get back to wherever they need to go. I called Pierce Transit myself to verify the round trip thing. I also, Tacoma Mutual Aid Collective is having their annual distribution day tomorrow, and TMAC partnered with the health department to bring vaccine to that event. And so if you know anybody that needs a vaccine, just let them know they can get it at that event also. The health department is also working on a targeted event in conjunction with Nourish Pierce County Food Bank out in Spanaway. And I will send out the flyer for this afternoon. I'll send it to the providers and the outreach teams, but it's going to be at the old Spanaway Elementary School on June 15th. I will send that out though. And then just non-vaccine related, our business services manager at the health department sent out an email from the Kresge Foundation, and Kresge is a member of the Funders for Housing Opportunity, and they've launched a survey for leaders, organizers, advocates who identify as BIPOC to understand leadership development needs. So I will post that link in the chat as well for anybody that's interested in participating in that, and my contact info also, I will post that. So that's it for updates for right now, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Rihanna. I don't see any questions. People can drop questions into the chat if they would like as well. And let's go ahead and move on to our next item, and that would be an update from the Safe Sites for All group. Colin and Jan, if you have updates.
I can give an update on the safe parking piece, and I don't know if Jan's on here. I missed I've missed a couple of the Safe Sites for All meetings with some conflicts with my so I'm interested in hearing some of that update also. As far as safe parking, things are going great. As I let you guys know before, our East Side site has shut down. I actually just found out from Cornell on this call, because Cornell did services out of the East Side site, and he just let me know two more of the households, families that were in the East Side site have been just recently connected to housing. So that's two more safe parkers that have been connected to housing, which is super exciting. Our South Hill site is at capacity, a little bit over capacity. So it's continuing to just be extremely successful with engaging and connecting individuals to housing services and other services, such as Paula's services. Paula's been integral out there. The TUUC site is, hopefully we will be getting some referrals this weekend and through into next week, and we'll get some vehicles there. So we are ready to roll with that one. I'm very excited to get that one back on board. And we have another site in Hilltop that should be opening soon. So there's some logistical things that we need to figure out. I need to get a thumbs up on the funding for the site from the Safe Parking or the Safe Sites for All group, just to make sure everybody's good with it. But hopefully that one's going to be opening up. And yeah, that's about the updates for that. Things are good. RVs are a challenge. I would say the other challenging thing, we had a referral yesterday from a female fleeing a domestic violence situation. Her car is broke down with some kind of random thing. It's a newer car, but she is stuck on the property of her ex because that's where the car is. So she's living on the property of her ex, who is who she's had DV issues with recently. So that's an example of some of the challenges with the vehicles. And there's a lot of other vehicles that have very small things, an alternator, this, that, or the other. So it would be great. And one of the things that I'm thinking about moving forward, if we had mechanic services, someone that was willing to, and so I don't know if anybody knows of anyone like that. When school gets back in, I know previously I've used Clover Park Voc-Tech or Bates. Sometimes they will work with some of these individuals, but yeah, there's something to think about. We also have a couple RVs that are parked at private sites just from people that have stepped up in the community and said, hey, I have this area. So I'm continuing to connect with those individuals. I'm actually looking for one right now for a family that's in an RV. So yeah, that's kind of what the safe parking piece, and then I'll kick it over to Jan or anyone else from the Safe Sites group.
I want to give Colin kudos for making partnerships work. The reason why this safe parking network is as successful as it is because of developing partnerships. Colin pulled in the local Tacoma Police Department community liaison officer and got sort of an impossible situation worked out with the neighbors. That being said, we're now evolved into the Safe Sites for All, and we are reaching out to Habitat for Humanity to get their take on the 69th and Proctor site. So anybody's welcome to the noon Zoom meetings. Go to our coalition website to register. And Jeffrey, if I'm missing something, I'll jump over to you there.
No, I think you two have got it pretty well covered. I'm much tied up with 34th and Pacific and the death of a camper. So next week I'll be doing probably a little more outreach.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for the Safe Sites for All folks? I see Al's hand up.
Colin, have you given any thought to contacting some of the car clubs, the car hobbyist folks to help with minor repairs?
No, I haven't. That's a good idea. Yeah, no, I'm looking for any and all. I am not a huge car guy. Said I have to help a couple campers myself if they can get the parts. I helped one with brake pads one Saturday, and but I think that's a great idea. And and if you have any specific car clubs, maybe I'll do a Google search. I'm not exactly sure. I'm definitely open to reaching out to whoever. Just really, and off of that, I'm just curious if at all with the 34 site, which Jeffrey and I and many of others have been out to. I'm just wondering from the city standpoint. That site, there's been a lot of deaths over the years at that site, and oftentimes when someone dies at that site, that triggers usually a brush clearing and a cleanup. And I'm glad that we haven't heard anything like that, but I'm just curious if there's any talk from the city about that site and any future possibilities for anything at that site, because it's very active and there's vehicles and so I'm just curious.
Hey, Colin, can we talk? I'm not sure of anything, so can we talk about it and then get back to it and then bring it back to the group? Thanks.
Thanks, Tegan. All right, our next item on the agenda is back to Maureen to talk about whether the coalition should submit a letter regarding the Rapid Capital Housing Acquisition Program, which is a mouthful. And you're on mute. There you go.
Okay, thank you. So if I can share my screen and you'll all be treated to my desktop as this comes up.
You should be able to share.
Okay. Uh-oh. So are you just saying, oh, stop laughing? You're seeing my whole desktop, aren't you? Well, some days are like that, folks.
You might just be able to
Maybe I can
drag
make
the
it-
document over, make it bigger, because we can't really see the text too well.
How about this? Is that getting better?
Yes. It's getting a little better, yeah.
Still need more, huh? I was going to clean up my desktop, but
And don't do that for us.
no, then the 509 happened, you know? How about this? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so this is a letter that I would like the coalition to say yes. The Tacoma Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. This goes to the Washington State Department of Commerce, to the leader of the Housing Finance Unit, Nathan Lichty, and that we are deeply appreciative of your work and welcome this opportunity to comment on the Rapid Capital Housing Acquisition Program. This is the money, remember, this is the $123 million to acquire vacant hotels, motels, apartments. Our coalition is a Pierce County-wide network of providers, advocates, nonprofits, governments, concerned citizens, people with lived experience, all of whom are committed to one single thing, ending homelessness. We advocated for this money during the 2021 legislative session. We formally voted to make 1,000 units of housing for people experiencing homelessness our top priority for the use of the American Rescue Plan Act funding. And the Rapid Capital Housing Acquisition Program aligns perfectly with our action. Ensuring shelter and housing for people experiencing homelessness requires units, funding, providers. All require political will. We have available hotel units. Many of these units are below 100,000 to 150,000 per unit. We have providers who already successfully use hotels for non-congregate shelter programs. As far as we know, all of the hotel rooms currently used are leased. We want sustainable congregate shelters and quickly available permanent and permanent supportive housing units. We have been encouraging providers to purchase hotels. We have also been working with providers who might want to lease a floor for a targeted population. We have new political will in Pierce County. The Pierce County Council, along with the City of Tacoma Council, formally committed to ending street homelessness by November 1st, 2021. The Rapid Capital Housing Acquisition Program can provide some of the funding we need. However, we need the money to be able to be used as quickly as possible within the context of Pierce County. While our acquisition costs are lower, our available local matching funds are also significantly less than in adjacent King County. Therefore, we ask that Congress, one, reduce the match requirements for areas outside of King County and that there be no match for units at $150,000 or less. Confirm that the American Rescue Plan Act and other federal funds may be used as eligible match. And three, allow matching funds to be used either for operating or capital purchases, including rehabilitation, but not require local match on both operating and capital. Our congregate shelters had to reduce their capacity because of COVID-19. We don't actually know how many people are unsheltered. Pierce County tells us at least 1,350. We all believe there are many more, perhaps as many as 6,000 people. Daily, we see more encampments. About a week ago, another person experiencing homelessness died of an apparent treatable medical condition in an unsanctioned encampment. We're relying on Commerce to help us be able to make good use of the Rapid Capital Housing Acquisition Program. So that's the letter.
Great. So do folks have comments?
So you know the City of Tacoma, I've worked with the City of Tacoma with the housing unit, which is Community and Economic Development and Government Affairs, and the city will be submitting a letter that will be along the same asks, but will be expanded, more technical items as well. And I'm pretty sure Lehigh is going to submit a letter. I've asked the county if they're going to. I just haven't heard back yet.
Lots of kudos in the chat.
Well, look, thanks Sharon Lee for really, with Lehigh, for really bringing together the city community economic development, city government affairs, and the coalition on this. I think we have a vote, an ability to vote, Garrett, do we?
All right, I have put a poll up. Do you approve sending the letter Maureen just read about the Rapid Capital Housing Acquisition Program to the State Department of Commerce? Yes, no, or abstention?
So I don't see the poll. Are others seeing the poll?
People are voting.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I can't vote anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either.
Well, we don't want either of your opinions on it. We have, wait, I guess, yeah, so I don't know, maybe it's acting weird.
Maureen and Rob, did you register to vote with the coalition?
Yeah.
I guess. Anyway, those are the results. So a bunch of yeses, no nos. I think we're good.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Fantastic. All right, so let's turn the floor over to Garrett. You wanted to walk through the new coalition member directory on the website.
Thank you, Robin. I do think I kind of screwed the poll up, but seeing how it was unanimous.
We're all in favor
until
of it
I
anyway.
turned it off. My apologies, guys. Sorry. Every now and then I think I know how Zoom works well and think I'm amazing, and then I just get reminded. All right, I wanted to take a quick couple of minutes and show a new feature on the coalition website. It's a little bit hidden right now, but I think we'll make it more prominent. One question I often get is, hey, Garrett, how do I connect in with so-and-so? I get that a lot. And it would be really handy if we had a little directory of all of our coalition members. And so I made one. And I'm going to show you our coalition website, which I suspect you have all got a good taste of over the years. And you are seeing our regular old coalition webpage. And if you look over the top here, there are a number of menu items. One of them says members. And currently it just lists out all the different agencies that have really showed up at a meeting, right? So membership's pretty light still, and we're not changing that. But I added a little paragraph here, and there's a couple links in it. And one of them is to a searchable member directory. And so currently, if you were trying to track me down, you could enter my name in and you could get a little bit of information about me, my phone number, and whatnot. And if you would like to be listed in this directory, if you go back to the member link, you can see, actually I'm going to log myself out really quick. You can see back on this member link, right? So I click members. There's a little link here that says a free member is needed to be listed. Just fill out our membership information form. That would be you clicking this. And you'll get taken to a place to create a new account. Maybe my name is Mr. Amazing at pchomeless.org, right? Any email address you have would work. And make up a password that's complicated enough for the password gods to approve. And you go ahead and click that. And then you're going to get taken to a little form where you can fill out some more information. I am Mr. Amazing. And you can add a little picture if you'd like, right? Just pop in, pick a picture that looks like you or looks like what you want to look like. We'll do me out in a rowboat in Puget Sound. You can put information in or not, it's up to you. Maybe I don't want my phone number in there, but I do want my email address. You can associate yourself with an agency. If your agency is not on the list, there should be a way to add it, but I haven't built that yet. So just give me a holler and I can add that in. But I'm with the Tacoma Pierce County oopsie, I'm all a mess now. Tacoma Pierce County, it's got to be on here somewhere. Coalition to End Homelessness. I could do a little biography. Everyone knows Mr. Amazing, so I hardly have to put one in. And then there's an option whether you want to appear in the public directory. So that would be a directory that can be seen by anyone coming to the website, or just the private directory. And that's going to be available only to people that have created this account and logged in. And so Mr. Amazing maybe just wants to be on the public directory, no, so just the private directory. And then I click create, and then it's going to drop me into the coalition's admin screen. And there's other features in here. Some of you use other ones of those that I've created. But there we are. And so if I go back to, and there's a link here back to that same directory search. So if I wanted to see if I was showing up here in Mr. Amazing, right? I'm showing up just fine. And again, this directory looks the same, whether it's in the private mode or public mode. I've logged in, right? Created an account. And so I'm kind of in the internal mode. If I logged out, right, since I checked, no, I don't want the general public to find me. If I go back to that member searchable directory and I look for Mr. Amazing, I am simply not going to show up this time, right? And just the folks that have already put themselves on publicly are going to show up, which is me and Gina May and Janet and Jeffrey and a few others. So go on to, again, the member link and get yourself an account on there. You can also always connect into the sign in the upper right. Like if you can't remember the members, that's another way to get in. You can sign in. If you don't have a username and password, that's how you would go in the future to update your member information. You can register as a new user and it'll take you through that whole same process. Got problems? Give me a holler. This is all fun and games until the website doesn't work right. So if you run into any troubles, let me know. And that's the whole kit and caboodle.
That's a lot.
You know, it's fast. It's really not that hard. You just kind of go in and putter until it works. And if you break it, you get a free lollipop. So there's that.
Ooh, we have a lollipop budget. Awesome. So Garrett, you also have the next item on the agenda.
I think I'm on here, right? Yeah, so we've been voting to have people sort of formally represent the coalition. And I have 3 things we're not going to vote on today. I just wanted to put them out there. And I'm actually going to have Maureen talk a little bit about them. So it's 3 different roles, all of them Maureen pretty well fills. And these are some great opportunities to develop your policy chops by, you don't need to know stuff to do these. You just have to be interested in learning stuff. So the 3 ones are representative on the Affordable Housing Consortium's Advocacy Committee. That's Pierce County centric, although they push a lot of effort towards state legislation. The second one is the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance, and that really is just monitoring their calls, among other things, but that's state focused, tiny bit federal. And the last one is the National Low Income Housing Coalition, and that's pretty federally focused. But Maureen, do you want to talk a little bit more about any of those?
Sure, thanks. So the Tacoma Pierce County Affordable Housing Consortium is really focused on the nonprofit developers, and there are for-profit developers who are part of that as well. The advocacy, they have a board, and this that's where decisions get made. You can sign up for the advocacy committee, meets once a month. Oh dear, the 4th Wednesday, I think, of the month, about 9 o'clock in the morning. And Amanda DeShazo, who is the executive director of the consortium, chairs that committee while she's on leave. Jason Gauthier from Habitat for Humanity will be chairing. So it draws normally a good collection of nonprofit developers and a few other folks. And it's a really good way to learn what is important. The way this advocacy committee works is that it makes the recommendations about the consortium's actual advocacy platform. That goes to the consortium's board of directors. Once it's approved by the consortium's board of directors, then the committee simply can act. And Amanda, as the executive director, can act. She doesn't have to go back for approval on things. So it's a nice process that they have. They're part of a group of similar consortia across the state that are linked to and supported by the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. A Washington Low Income Housing Alliance is the outgrowth of about 3 different statewide housing, low income housing, and homelessness coalitions that have been created over the years. And this is the remaining entity. So the Alliance has a website. They are active on social media. They handle the state legislative agenda that is specific to the State Housing Trust Fund and other key homelessness and housing issues. And then in partnership, so that agenda gets developed every year. They'll start working on it this summer through listening tours and then working with partners. And what will happen is that there will be a single agenda, that lead agenda with a specific number of items, both policy and budget, that will be adopted by the Alliance's board. There will also be a support agenda, and that's generally where all of the partners come in. So statewide organizations that handle a key issue like the tenants union, that sort of thing, those normally come in through a partnership. The Alliance does have some committees that their board must approve membership on. So I sit on the public policy committee as approved by the Alliance's board. And we could add another person. It's just a matter of the person applying. And then at the request of the Alliance, I'm invited to the homeowner or the homeless group, which is the sort of, most of those people, they're either county homelessness contacts or they're pretty much county folks. And that's the remnants of the old Washington State Coalition for the Homeless. So again, it's a great opportunity to meet people from different parts of the state. And sometimes you find colleagues like Rob in the committees and on meetings that you didn't even know about before. So that's a great opportunity. Also has an opportunity to be a district lead. Every legislative district in the state, the Alliance wants to have a local lead, somebody who lives in that district, who votes for those folks. And we can have, that's another great place where we can have a multiplier effect, that it's not limited to one person, but can have 2 or 3 people. And again, it's a great way to learn. There's always a one-day advocacy day at the state legislature. Now, the Alliance is tied into the National Low-Income Housing Coalition, which works not at the state levels, but works nationally on federal housing policy, and it morphs into homelessness as well. And then the National Low-Income Housing Coalition works to build up state partnerships and also has space for local advocates, local providers, local governments. And so all during the pandemic, and their website is a real active, well-maintained website. They're running the Housed campaign right now, and they have at least 4 meetings a week, plus a tenants meeting that I don't attend. And you can actually take a look at their website, and there's a national meeting, like Representative Pramila Jayapal will be the guest at Monday's national meeting. There is a meeting that is strictly on legislative policy. There's a meeting on using FEMA. Not a lot of that is disaster relief, hurricanes and that sort of stuff. But as you know, local governments could still use FEMA money for non-congregate hotel rooms for free until the end of September. We just can't get our local governments to do that. And then there is a state and local meeting as well. And that tends to be more interactive with people from different parts of the country. And it's a great way to learn what other people are doing. And so these are all opportunities that are free, where there's a membership required. Garrett took care of the membership for the consortium. Now I have a membership, an individual membership with the consortium. I got them to do a low income rate for anybody who's interested in that, because the Low Income Housing Alliance has that option, and the National Coalition, Low Income Housing Coalition has that option as well. There is a fourth group that has re-emerged at the national level, the National Coalition for the Homeless. And so that's another option that's open, and they are solely focused on homelessness, and they are really prioritizing people with lived experience. So if you have questions, just, email me.
Thank you, Maureen. That sounded a bit overwhelming, but those phone calls and sitting in on them never feel overwhelming to me. Sometimes it's a little bit of vocabulary, but I don't know much about housing policy at some of those levels, and I find them all just really informative. So I would highly recommend, if you have an interest, that this is a great entree into that. And Maureen's has a lovely knowledge bank that you can tap into when you're curious about this or that. And like she said, Rob's often on the calls. There's lots of folks that are connected in that can help you as you learn and become a stronger advocate. So thank you. I think I have the next agenda item too, Rob.
You do.
I put down that we needed to vote to pursue some grants for the Speaker Bureau, but I went back and looked, and we actually did sort of a blanket authorization for us to pursue some funding around the Speakers Bureau. So as Jeff Rogers mentioned, the county put a NOFA out around people with lived experience and bringing them into decision-making and meetings. And that's exactly what our Speakers Bureau is looking to do. And so we will probably be pursuing some of that funding. It's super quick turnaround. So next week, there's also another group, which Lamont Green has mentioned, and I don't really know an awful lot about what they're doing or how they're doing it, but I'm going to reach out to them and see if there's some ways that we can kind of merge that work together, or if we'll kind of continue in parallel on this. So our Speakers Bureau is kind of not complicated, but it involves a whole nother group, the Pierce County Community Engagement Task Force and Workforce Central. So that's kind of already a complicated collaboration of ours, but I'm super excited that there's more resources going towards bringing lived experience in. And if you ever are interested in writing grants or reviewing grants I've written, I think I got somebody that volunteered on this, but it's always good to have more folks looking those over because grammar's tough. Anyway, that's all I got. Rob, folks, let me know if you're interested in that process of grant writing or have questions about our Speakers Bureau. You know how to find me.
Perfect. And Garrett, did you want to mention the meeting that's taking place this afternoon? I know.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So the Continuum of Care has some efforts around bringing kind of race awareness into all of our homeless work, and they invited the coalition to a joint discussion at 1 p.m. today. There was a couple one incorrect time, so it's 1 p.m. The link to join is on the coalition website. And Ben Feldbush basically came from the coalition. We used to have a racial equity team. My version of events is that we sort of gifted it to the Continuum of Care so that they could more effectively get that work jump started. And it sounds like they're kind of really doing some amazing things there. And so hopefully bring that work back closer into what we do. That may not be how it is in reality, but that's how it is in my head. So I'm excited for that conversation and that work to get going again. And Lamont Green, who I mentioned earlier, Dr. Green, is going to lead that work, and he's a stellar facilitator. So I'm looking forward to that today. And I also had one more thing, as long as I got the floor. There's a event tomorrow. It's a few hours. It starts at noon, and there's going to be a viewing of a film that a gal in Seattle that makes documentaries filmed about homelessness. So basically, she moved into one of these sanctioned encampments in Seattle and lived there for a couple of weeks. And she had a film crew and her kind of documenting the whole process. And it's a really good window into how a well-run sanctioned encampment can operate and into a lot of these folks' lives. And it's beautifully done. And so that's going to be shown during the event. And then there's going to be a discussion forum with some folks with lived experience and people that are connected here. I'll be on it. A gal named Dakota Fox, another fellow that's got some lived experience that does work in this arena. So it should be a good event. I sent out the link in the email and put it in chat, but give me a holler if you have any trouble getting registered. Thanks. Oh, and it's sponsored by Marlene's Market. I don't know how food and homelessness go together, but I think they do some cool stuff in the community, and this is one of them. So yay.
Thank you, Garrett. So at this point in our agenda, we have some time for just items for the good of the order. So feel free to raise your hand, and I see Julian's got his hand up, so he knows what's happening. So Julian, why don't we go to you to start? And Julian, we're not able to hear you right now, even though I see you unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because it's usually when I have my headphones plugged in recently, it's been interfering with my ability to be heard. But anyway, thanks for having these meetings, and I would certainly love to continue having these meetings online. A lot of organizations. A lot of organizations are starting to go back to in-person meetings and not retaining the remote attendance option. But I did want to also just announce our next ACAC meeting, Accessible Communities Advisory Committee. It's July 13, 9 o'clock on Zoom, 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'll put it in the chat box. And it's about expediting funding for accessibility projects. And our own Garrett actually engaged the process. And I have yet to hear back from the Governor's Committee on their decision, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Julian. Anyone else with items for the good of the order today? Alan?
Yeah, just wanted to draw attention what I put in the chat. CCS Family Housing Network Day Center for Families is reopening on Monday. We've gone through some remodeling to improve the space. It's a place where families can come do laundry, cook. We actually have lunches delivered typically every day. They can drop in and get a coordinated entry appointment. Actually, families or singles can get a coordinated entry appointment. And we now have private rooms for those appointments. Our hours are expanded till 7 p.m. during the week. And we added weekend hours as well. You got a family, send them our way if they need a place to be during the day and to be connected with services as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Alan. And if you're interested, it'd be great to kick off next week's meeting with kind of a virtual walkthrough of the remodeled site.
Yeah, I believe I can do that.
Okay, great. I will loop back with you. Maureen?
Yeah, thanks. One of the things about this process going forward from the ad hoc committee into the steering committee and the shelter work group is that we have people, certainly on the steering committee, and I'm not sure about the shelter work group, who really have either no knowledge or very limited knowledge of the homelessness response system. So part of what I think is going to have to happen is figuring out how to make you all and the system that everybody works in available and accessible to people who don't have that knowledge. So if you're asked questions about exactly what it is you do, that sort of thing, please don't take those as criticisms of your work, but rather we just need to, I'm basing this on one of the people who's on the steering committee was at our housing committee a couple of weeks ago, and he really didn't know anything You know, so it's acronyms, everything. So please just, you know, if you get asked, that's all it is we're just trying to make the system intelligible. So.
Thank you, Maureen. All right, anybody else? All right, so I'm not seeing anybody else stepping up with items for the good of the order. I will invite people, if you're interested in helping plan next week's meeting, we will convene in this same room in about 5 minutes to do that. And otherwise, I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy weekend and hope everybody has a good Friday.